dialogue, which is what we're talking about at the moment. So I just want to know that.
Dialogue legitimate.
Yeah, please, you hold it, I'll do the fact.
A million times.
I would just like to come back. I'm going to answer a clarification that was asked for about the role of the Fire Brigade. We have been dealing with the Fire Brigade here at St Paul's for some weeks now. All of the discussions we have had with them, have been conducted in extremely good faith. Even when St Paul's was still trying to get us evicted, the Fire Brigade were happy to say in public statements, when journalists rang them up, were happy to say, we have been to St Paul's, we have spoken to them, they are in compliance with all of our regulations.
Support FBU! Trade union!
We have no reason to believe that the Fire Brigade are going to start being the evil playthings of the Corporation of London.
Support Fire Brigade!
There you are.
Okay, next try for consensus. So if everyone is clear on this proposal, can I see your hands up if you are happy with it? Any stand aside?
I like the idea.
We're going with Mark's thing, yeah? We're agreeing in principle, but the amendments are after, right?
Yeah, after this, if we get consensus, we'll start talking about the amendments. Okay? Okay, any stand aside? Do you want to explain your stand aside, which is not a block? Is everyone clear with what stand aside means? Stand aside is when you don't want to block. You disagree with it, but you will then block it. You will let it go. Okay?
I think the points are very limited. Very limited. I think it shows weakness to accept these 3 points. I think we should not negotiate. I think we're in a strong position and we have a lot of public support, as do the 29 other occupations in the UK. We do not need their approval. We are standing for justice. We should not vote for any negotiation.
And just a reminder, if you are talking on the mic and you're going to say something you already said, you can let it go as well. Any blocks? Stand aside, okay. But just 20 seconds, okay?
I just think you're giving away an option of, in a social experiment we don't know much about. If we had 3 camps, one that negotiated, one made demands, one made no negotiations whatsoever, you could then see what happens, and for next time people would learn from it and know which things to do right and wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Lead by example!
We've been trying to set up a third camp forever. Yeah, but
any blocks to propose number 3, which is the legal proposal? Is that a block?
It was like the 4th attempt.
Is that a block?
And none worked.
We want more cats and dogs.
Yes!
More cats and dogs for everyone. And we have cigars.
Thank you, Anonymous, for your great contribution.
Any real blocks?
Can I have one of your cigars? Can I have a cigar? Can I have your cigar?
Can people who are going to block now? They come over here now, and then you won't have another chance to block.
Maybe I would move to a stand aside and explain my points for wanting to block this, but it seems that it's quite a long process and lots of people want it, so I don't know, I'm happy to stand aside.
Another block? Any other blocks? You made your point. Okay.
So can you sit down so they can see the hands?
Okay, there is one block, so we might try the next option and see if there is consensus for that one. I'm gonna try the next one, and then if that doesn't go ahead, we go back to the first one. Okay, so the next option was to say no, and can you please? The next option is to say no and to issue a public statement. Hands up for people who are happy. Stand aside. Blocks. Okay, so it seems that the only realistic option here to get a consensus is the third option. But that doesn't mean that we reach a consensus yet. Would you mind clarifying your block and telling us if you will be happy to reconsider or not at all?
I'm truly concerned that we haven't still established the London Corporation's authority or legal jurisdiction over this issue. Now, I think we need more information and people that really understand common law and human rights. They're much more powerful than statutory law. And if we enter into negotiations, we are entering into the statutory game. Now really, really think about this.
Case in point, Parliament Square.
I want to ask first if people will be happy to go ahead with consensus even if there is one block. Okay.
It's my belief, and it's the belief of the legal team, that the Corporation of London, with its status as a highway authority, has the authority to issue proceedings under the highways statute. However, since the gentleman is concerned, I can make him the following offer. We can check in with our legal team first thing tomorrow morning and get them to give us an authoritative, fully justification of why the Corporation of London is a legitimate authority to be issuing proceedings under the Highways Act. And if that was good enough for the gentleman over there, if you agree to.
Would we have time to discuss it at the following GA at 1 o'clock?
The problem is, we know from our discussions that Paul has had, our lawyer has had with the Corporation of London today, that it's very possible they'll be issuing legal proceedings tomorrow. Their ability to issue proceedings against us is not seriously in doubt. If the gentleman is concerned about it, we can provide justification to that effect, I am sure. But I don't think that should prevent us, that technical point should prevent us going ahead.
There are quite a lot of hands up. Are we happy with taking their direct points? Yes? No? No response? So, yeah, okay.
Just a direct response to your concerns. You're saying you're concerned that because going into negotiations, I mean, the statement is very clearly saying we're not going into negotiations at this moment in time, and we are not recognising you. And that is what the statement is very clearly saying. And they're saying we might change our mind, but at this moment in time we do not recognise you, and we do not go into negotiations. So I'd like you to reconsider your block in that sense.
Clear the stage so people can see. People sit down if they're not actually going up to the stage.
I think we can make the statement because we're saying we're not negotiating, we're not, and we can still consider common law and we can still consider other options, even though we're making the statement. So you can still consider the common law even with making the statement.
In answer to the concern of that gentleman who's talking about old law and all the laws in the world, the present situation at this present moment is that the corporation has power to evict us anytime they choose.
Yes.
Legally, we occupy a public highway. They've got jurisdiction and they've got the power. Now, most of us here are concerned about having a dialogue with these people. So I don't know how you can achieve any objective if you don't have a dialogue with the people you're dealing with. Having a dialogue does not mean giving in. It opens the door to proposal, and we're not obliged to comply with whatever they say if we sit there and talk with them. Rather, that is an opportunity to tell them that we don't want what you're proposing. Here is what we want you to do. That is the purpose of a dialogue. It does not mean that we'll be giving up. So we continue talking.
What the gentleman that was blocking said is very relevant. At the moment we have 3 demands in our counter proposal. I'd like to suggest that we add a 4th, asking the City of London Corporation to provide us with an explanation of precisely what their legal foundations are for beginning an eviction based on the Highway Code. I'm suggesting...
Had the Corporation of London served papers on us, which they were planning to do on the day that the Dean resigned, we would know exactly what their grounds for taking action against us are. Not the thing they're going to disclose until they actually start legal action against us, which we don't want to happen.
It's a bluff! I quite like the thought of that. We're going to do the trainers and the t-shirt. I'm ready. I'm ready. Please close that, sorry.
I'm going to try for consensus once again. Yes, and I want to ask you to consider before blocking, if you really understand what a block means. Do you really think that doing option number 3 will undermine the movement and will go completely against what we are and what we mean, and consider that the big majority of the people here have been thinking about it and they reached the decision that that was the right one. So just consider this before blocking, although you can block anyway if you... Okay, so hands up for the people who are happy with option number 3.
Yes.
Stand aside. That is a stand aside I see up there, yeah? No, I'm not gonna give you the word for this, if you don't mind. And okay. I think the person who was blocking is getting clarification to see if he can change his mind. Okay, any blocks?
There's 3. 1 minute. That's 4. Still blocking. It's very close.
Are you completely sure you want to block and not stand aside? 100%? If you come over here, are you going to say something that hasn't been said before?
Jules, come down and speak.
So I say, look, I'm ready to remove the pod, but I need more time.
It is currently 10:15 at night. How many of you have eaten, have slept properly? You're not making rational decisions here, and you're bored. Like, you're playing right to a corporation's game by pissing yourself at the first sign of a legal paper. Like, I understand, but I'm not in a rational state to vote, and I don't think anyone else is.
I don't think that was...
You have managed to get all of this on camera.
Yeah, trying to.
Temperature check and what?
Yeah, we've got the whole...
Very important.
Any other blocks? That was not a valid block because you weren't given any reason for blocking the proposal.
I've told you my reason.
That's not a valid reason. Do you have anything new to say?
I would be willing to withdraw my block when I've been given information and clarity on common law, but I need time. I need time, and I think it's very important that we take time with this.
Are we aware that we have spent 3 assemblies talking about this issue, and that there is a working group who has been working for weeks on this, and that the information has been available from them for the people who are interested? Are you aware of that?
There's an answer. There's an answer about clarity.
Clarification on common law.
The Magna Carta of 1297 was gradually repealed in the 18th, 19th century, with the final repeal being in the 1930s. Common law, as beautiful a thing as it is not going to work. At the end of the day, I know somebody who's just gone through $2.5 grand trying to get out of a 60 quid parking fine using common law. My friends were the people who went and stormed Birkenhead courts to arrest a judge for being unlawful. Common law is not going to help us here. We've got to play their game and then do what the hell we like. What are we afraid of?
Yeah.
I want to hear his points. We want to hear his points.
I think the problem is that a lot of people are actually misapplying common law. Yeah, they're taking what they think they'd like it to be, yeah, and then failing in the courts because they're not applying it properly. Yeah, I'm very successful with it, exceedingly successful, because I've looked at what people are doing and how it's not working, and I've progressively applied it. Yeah, common law is the law of the land. Yeah, statutes are always also there as well. You have to balance the two. They have to be balanced.
Can you explain our exact legal position in common law and explain what's going to happen in the courts if we go there with common law? Since you're an expert.
Okay, okay, with my suggestion with this letter, yeah, that we're putting to them, if we want to protect ourselves, we put without prejudice at the top, it can't be used in a court of law. Simple as that.
Can you make that as a proposal and can we temperature check that proposal?
Yeah, but you asked me a question, so I'm answering.
That's for amendment. That's the content of this thing.
There are 2 clarifications here, 1 and 2, and then we can... Okay.
Hi, Alex, Nafisa. My arms are killing. I'm recording the GA on.
I just wanted to make
on a flip cam,
a
and I'm doing the rest
procedural
on a
proposal.
camera.
I'm worried that we won't
would
get
you know
to
who the
amend
right person would be
something
to
that
leave
is
it with
very
to upload for
likely,
tonight?
by the look of the... I don't agree with the proposal, but I think it's very likely to pass. And I think it would be better if we devoted our energy now to actually improving it rather than debating whether to pass it or not.
Can we have this for clarification with not clarification of the clarifications, and then just have a temperature check in if...
Do you want me to take over holding? Yes, my shoulders are killing.
Okay. So who was first?
Hi, I would just like to sort of, in not layman's terms, because that's a bit weird, but in just sort of ordinary terms, explain what this third proposal means for us. It doesn't mean that we are letting them win, because it's saying that we are not playing your game with these ridiculous proposals that they've presented. And what I suggested and what our group suggested is, if we tell them, look, if you want further discussion on this matter, come and do it at a GA, surely that will appease the people out there who don't want to play this game, because we're not necessarily going to engage in some kind of weird legal jargon discourse. And the other fact is, we aren't relinquishing any of our ideals. The 3 points that we've made, we know they're not going to agree to them. We're showing them up. We're giving them to them so the public can see and go, hang on a minute, that's a bit weird. And when they say no, it makes them look bad. That is the point of this thing. So why are you blocking it? It is to our strength that we show them up just like idiots. Come on.
Speaking directly to Ikala's block there. Ikala. Directly to your point. I had the advantage of seeing the beginning of this debate on the direct stream, and I have to say that's very, very good, and there's lots of people following it. It's really, really good. And I came in because of the importance of this. Having spoken to you, and having read the thing online, I'm confident that this has taken into consideration both the statutory situation and the common law situation. And as you mentioned to me a moment ago, if you can get confirmation from the lawyers that that is the case, you mentioned to me that that would be fine as far as your block is concerned. Am I right there? Now, as far as I'm concerned, having read it online, that's going to come. So my hope is that that's going to deal with this block. And I'll just say one thing. If it is the case that multinationals can be larger than countries, then so can Occupy. A lot of people have talked about the word sovereignty as a sovereign body. I actually consider this to be a sovereign body. It's a little bit like self-respect, really. There's two things. First of all, you respect yourself, then you get other people to respect you. It's the same with sovereignty. First of all, you act like a sovereign body, and then you get other sovereign bodies to recognize you, like trade unions and political parties. And that's how we get the situation that we're going to be in. This letter from the lawyers says that we are not going to negotiate with them, and it raises us to be at a higher level than the corporation. It is acting like a sovereign body, and we should be proud to send it.
Yeah, I just want to make, for me again, the statement doesn't exclude the option of common law. We're just basically telling them we're not going to negotiate with you at this moment in time. We're not recognizing your authority. That doesn't mean that if there is a magical common law option that we can take in a day or two, we can still take that. We're just doing a statement. So I think that you don't need clarification on common law to agree on the statement. You need clarification on common law to see if we can go down that route. This doesn't exclude any kind of common law option in the future, I would think. So.
It won't take our amendment from our discussion.
Well, great. So we can move on maybe to an amendment to make sure that we can still go down the common law route.
Okay. Did these clarifications make sense to people who block minds? those blocks still blocks? Would you be happy to agree on this and then go into the amendments? No, sorry. So are you still blocking?
It's the stand aside. What you're looking for is the stand aside.
I think your block... Yeah. I personally think that your block can go into the amendments part, and you might propose, this is what I think, that if your request is not met, then you will not agree on it, but that will go into amendments.
There's one concern that if we actually send this statement, that we're actually creating dialogue, and that could mean that we're in a contractual way connecting with them. So I need clarification on that.
I can clarify that because, for all intents and purposes, we're already in dialogue with them. The only sort of our next move, if we don't do this or do something similar to that, is to break off negotiation off our own back. That's what it would mean.
Okay, let's try for consensus. Amendments go later. Yeah, okay. So who's happy with proposal number 3 with amendments? Stand aside. And blocks.
Round of applause for Lara.
Well done, everyone. So, amendment. Should we just let the people with amendments?
So now we go to amendments, and hopefully in the amendments we'll make sure we don't give up our sovereign rights to a common law. And I'm seriously hoping that people online, that you manage to contact Roger Hayes and make sure that he helps us.
6. Okay, can you make sure if you have an amendment to raise your hand now? 7.
Today.
8.
I've just been asked to read out this one amendment, and it's basically to replace the statements "we will wish to continue dialogue with," "we may be able to enter into dialogue." Is that a fair representation of this amendment? Okay. It's just an amendment, a proposal for an amendment. We should probably gather other ones together.
Is there anyone taking notes of the amendment proposals? Anyone taking notes? We need a note taker for the amendment. Okay, can people with amendments come up and talk about their amendments very briefly, and only if they are super important?
Clara?
Got one process point first.
Okay, so this is a procedural point. I suggest after nearly 3.5 hours of meeting that it would be perfectly reasonable for us to contact the corporation and say we've had 3.5 hours of meeting. We're very much engaging with this process. If they were to then go and say we're considering amendments to whatever we're going to deliver to you or whatever. If they were to go to court tomorrow and say, right, we're going to try and evict them, they would be the ones cutting off communication, and they would not want to do that. So I suggest also that we don't put this off till tomorrow or something, because we've got plenty of other things to talk about. So we explain that our meetings are very full up for the next few days, but we will definitely give it time earlier next week and try and come up with a precise response. And that buys us a bit of time. And that was on legal advice, by the way.
We've got a proposal here that we collect the amendments now, and
so there's just a suggestion that given that it's getting late and it's getting cold and we don't actually have to reply until tomorrow, if we just collect amendments now, given that lawyers aren't here, we could put the amendments back to the lawyers and get some legal opinion about the amendments, and then we could get some legal advice about the nature and the substance, the effects of making these amendments on the statement, and then resume. I mean, we just want to do a temperature check on that. It's just late and you're getting cold. I mean, I'm just in the process group. I'm just thinking about the process list.
Temperature check on that proposal. Okay, it's been blocked, and we're not gonna discuss why it has been blocked. So we're not doing it, basically. Okay. Do we want to hear the amendments? Hands up. Yep. Okay.
Okay, I have a process proposal. Okay, it is a little bit extreme, but those of you that know me will know I'm extreme, and those of you who don't are going to learn it. Unless you sort this all out, yeah, we are not here to talk a revolution. We are here to make a future for our children and our children's children. Now, if we can't get this process to work, the only next viable option we have is armed insurrection. Now go and ask Ireland what that did. But bear in mind, most of the world is at war, so Britain better switch on, and so might London, yeah? I am proposing that we get our shit together, sort this out, yeah, and do something. Because chasing our tails, I don't like chewing hair.
Okay, that was not a proposal. Can we start hearing two amendments now? Please, can you queue up here, like, nicely? Yeah, okay.
5 grams of Semtex.
Hush up!
Somebody take notes. Okay, it's here, take it. Okay, my amendment is, we forgot about the workers who are working here for £6 per hour, and then my amendment is, when we put our demand, we put one of the demands, living wage, minimum living wage for £10 per hour.
Okay, it might not seem important, but I think it really is that the statement says something about this not being the only purpose, it's just being a piece of the puzzle, but our goal is bigger, because I've already seen in the media that they're saying that if the corporation does this, then we're going to go away, because that's all we want. So we need to make it really clear in our statement that this is just a piece of the puzzle and we're really into something bigger.
Okay, my proposal is a way to do that, and the way is to use what we already all agreed on and have repeated again and again and agreed on it. What we're here for is best expressed by the 9 points we said on the 16th of October. When somebody said that it would be useful to have the 3 points in the press, maybe it would, but it would be more useful to us to have the 9 points in the press. They haven't had nearly the exposure that they should have had. They do express the consensus of this camp. And for the people in the public who are watching us, for the people in the public who are watching us, the points about the City of London are not the crucial things. The crucial things are, we don't accept that cuts are inevitable or necessary. That we want the world's resources to be used for caring for people and not corporations and profits and wars. Those are the things that should be there, and I would propose what came out again and again in the report backs was that people said that the 9 points should be there as well as the 3 points. And I would propose that we do that by incorporating them into the number 3.
So just to clarify, the problem we've got here, here is that we've got a 9 AM deadline tomorrow of some sort. The other problem is that we don't have any legal advice here to clarify these amendments. There's a suggestion that we take the amendments and take the temperature check or consensus on each amendment, and then if we don't get consensus around any of the amendments, we go ahead with the position that's put forward, the option 3 as originally stated. What do people think about that? Could we have a temperature check on that proposal, as a process proposal? One disagreement here. 2. Okay, so
it's my feeling that it's the Corporation of London's 9 AM deadline. If they at 9 AM tomorrow morning want to cut off communication with us, then that would put them in a weaker legal position the way I understand it. I think we should get these amendments right and not rushing it. We've been here for 3.5 hours, might be a reasonable idea. One more thing I was going to suggest, maybe keep people happy that want both things in. The way we could do it is separate them. So the 3 points about the Corporation of London are points about them rather than the wider world. So what we could say is we would consider, we would, if you were to do this, which they're never going to do, we would communicate with you again. And if the things that we've talked about in the statement, which people can read, were dealt with, then that might be the kind of time that we might consider going home. I.e. when we have a just, democratic, sustainable world.
Second person who's blocking the process proposal.
Okay, I'm blocking it because I believe that we can get it done tonight. So far, all these amendments, as far as I can see, Ben, who's done an excellent job today in putting together this statement, he could take all the amendments, we agree, and incorporate them. So far, none of them have been like really legally tricky. They're just expressing our point of view, and I think we can do it, and we should have a really good go at doing it this evening.
So as far as I understand, what we're kind of obliged to do is be reasonable, otherwise a juridical consideration is that we're being unreasonable, and that will precipitate legal proceedings. So just to interject my own view on this, it seems to me that a reasonable thing to do would be to, I mean, given that this has all been recorded, a reasonable thing to do would be to perhaps put forward the third proposal to make a counter offer, but as a interim position that's not actually established. We've tried very hard to establish a reasonable position, that's a reasonable thing to do, that we've been very reasonable, that we've got a reasonable counter offer here that we are actually working on, that we can get legal advice on the amendments, that we can take time to reasonably feed the amendments into our interim position, and that we can then confirm a position later. And I think that would actually be a wholly reasonable thing to do, although I'm not a legal person.
I think in an ideal situation, and I know we are totally pushed for time, we would hear what all the amendments are, and some of them are sort of things which actually don't have any legal ramifications. Say, I understand, you know, the point has been made, I think, a couple of times that we want to reassert the fact that we're not just about these demands of the City of London, but actually about something much wider. That's a presentational issue, and in a way we present the offer, we can sort that out and make that clear. That's not really a fundamental, exactly, in the preamble or whatever. Nice word, thank you. There may be other amendments which speak more directly to the character of the proposal itself, and I suggest that we try and hear those, and if there are, try and feed them through to legal as soon as we possibly can. Yeah, I think it is, because we need to get consensus on this as soon as possible.
So how do people feel about that? Can we take a temperature check on that proposal? Yes, the final version would come back to the General Assembly. that we continue to discuss this. The amendment. It's not lunchtime, man. Well, we can try and think about that. We can try and think about that and try and schedule it in a reasonable way. And the only requirement seems to me that we need to be reasonable. If we're being reasonable, we say something, then we're not acting unreasonably. And if they can't establish that our behaviour is unreasonable, then they can't just accelerate and fast track the legal proceedings. That's what I'm saying.
I think because there is a serious time issue and because there are important events coming up in the next few days, which means we won't be meeting as often as we do, I suggest if the amendments are very, very important and sort of, you know, live or die issues for people, then I suggest we put those amendments together and arrange a special assembly or a special assembly of those who are concerned about the amendments, put them through to legal, see if we can sort it out so we can do it as quickly as we possibly can. If that sounds sensible to people.
Medic! Medic!
First aid start to the podium. First aid start to the podium. First aid.
Someone's gone.
Does anybody have any fruit? A ripe banana, please. Anybody with a ripe banana?
Okay, we have a medical situation here. Going hypoglycemia.
If you want some, and a banana's coming. It's juice.
I asked about the